Hi guys, how are you? I'm back with another part 2, if you will, using another Robert Frost poem as a metaphor, if you will, an anecdote that will help us look at the bigger picture of whether or not you should get on the plane and go and visit somebody. And again, as we've been talking about some of that how-to information this year, we've done a whole lot of how-to blogs, how to write letters, how to be successful with socials, how to help your fiance adjust to life in America, and we'll have a lot more of that how-to information coming up. But again, I realized it some time ago that the bigger question, which first must be answered, is whether or not you, listening to me right now, are going to be part of the mere 10% of men like yourself who come to websites like loveme.com and decide whether or not to ever get on a plane and go and meet somebody and actually do so. 90% of the men will not get on a plane and go and meet somebody, even though they write letters, talk to women, and are very serious in their intentions, because they come to that fork in the road, and at the fork in the road where they may get on the plane and go and meet somebody, or may stay home and do otherwise, they talk themselves out of going. Let's kind of continue along that metaphor a little bit, if you don't mind, and I'm going to use another Robert Frost poem, and then we'll move on to something else, okay? Here it is, guys. It's poetry, it's international dating, it's intrigue, great stuff, right? Well, the poem is called Mending Wall. I'll read a little bit of it for you, and then we'll kind of segue into the message overall. So the poem goes like this. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen groundswell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair, where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps. I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. And he's talking about this incredible scene of two old men in 1930s New England, presumably New Hampshire, with a broken stone wall between their properties. The only time they communicate, the only thing they have in common really as neighbors, is that they get together once a year and mend the wall between them. And I absolutely love this metaphor of two old men building a wall to keep them apart. And he goes on. He says, there where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows, but here there are no cows? Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know who I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. And then finally Frost concludes, something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me. He's talking about how his neighbor clings to that old adage, which really means nothing and doesn't apply. He says, good fences make good neighbors. And Frost says, why are we doing this? Why do we get together once a year and build a wall between us? Why do we build these walls? We don't need these walls. I'm an old man, you're an old man, I've got apple trees, you've got pines, I'm not going to hurt you. Why put a wall there, buddy? We don't need it. Let's just leave it. Let's take it down. Let's let it fall down. He wants to reach out. He wants to know his neighbor. He wants to build a relationship. He wants friendship. He doesn't want a wall that's there just for the sake of a wall being there. He wants it down. But the neighbor can't get beyond that old stubborn saying, good fences make good neighbors. So they build a wall that doesn't need to be there. So, all right, so look, guys, let's apply that to the bigger picture, right? You know what Frost is writing, I think Frost is kind of interesting. Frost is an ironic guy, and I love him as an American literal figure, because there are wall builders and there are wall breakers, and there are times when we are both. And that's basically what Frost is saying. Frost himself builds the wall when he's all alone and there's a stone missing. He'll fix the wall between he and his neighbor. He'll build the wall, and he's not sure why, but he does that. He'll call his neighbor up and say, the wall's broken again. Let's go and pick the stones up and put them back in place and build the wall between us. Maybe he's just inviting the neighbor for an opportunity to discuss whether they need that wall in the first place, but he is initiating that wall mending gathering between he and his neighbor. And you know, the poem itself, if you look at it, is written in very traditional verse, unlike other poets of the day like E.E. Cummings, who wrote in a great free verse style. Robert Frost even wrote this poem, which talks about walls to creativity and other things, and he wrote it in a very, very traditional, almost limited kind of sense. So, you know what, there are times, guys, what Frost is basically saying, when we have to build walls, when we have to have walls. There are times when we just maintain walls because we don't know what happens when the wall comes down. And there are times when we gotta stand up and kick the wall down and walk out of here. So when are we wall builders? When are we wall breakers in this process? So you've got plenty of people that are out there, guys. If you ask them about international dating and meeting people from other countries and other cultures and how much fun and interesting that would be for you, and if you talk to people about that, they have been listening to the media, which is a very, you know, I guess, media outlets tend to be very pro-wall building, if you will. You know, be afraid, don't go anywhere, don't try. Here, we'll show you what it's like in other places around the world. Aren't you afraid? You don't want to go there, do you? Of course you don't. And they tend to create this fear of other people and other cultures that doesn't need to be there. And a great example of that, if I just throw the word out there, Colombia, what do you think of when you think of Colombia? I know what you think of. You know, that is a very, very, very small part of Colombia's present, part of Colombia's past. But if you guys go to Colombia, and those of you who have been to Colombia with me recently know, great place, right? A lot of amazing people, very friendly, very safe, lovely women everywhere you go, great culture, and not at all portrayed accurately by our media. Our media teaches us to build walls about things that we don't know. It teaches us not to trust. Now, when we guys think about getting on the plane to go and meet somebody in this process, we start talking about going to Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine, or Cebu in the Philippines, or some place like that. And if someone else doesn't know about it or hasn't been there, they have great intentions, but they're going to try and talk you out of getting on the plane and going to meet somebody because they are afraid, because they are wall builders, because they listen to the things that they hear on the internet and watch on television, right? So you have to be willing to break through some of those walls that others are never going to break through. You're going to get through those walls, get on a plane and go and meet incredible people, have the time of your life, make a lot of friends, not to mention have a lot of really great romance in this beautiful romantic adventure called the Romance Tour. And then you're going to get on a plane and come back, and you're going to meet people who barely will peer over that wall at what lies on the other side and will never get beyond it. And your brain will be completely rewired from that point forward, I promise you. Those people may never move from their position of listening to, you know, things they see and hear and believing everything that they see and hear and just feeling that fear of the walls that are built, right? There are times when, you know, you have to make sure you're not letting other people wall you in. You're not letting other people keep you from realizing that beautiful love story that waits for you in this process, right? So you understand there are times when you've got to break through those walls if you're going to meet somebody. And by the way, those walls, again, I've said it before, nobody made the rule that a guy from Texas can't fall in love with and marry a woman from Ukraine for perfectly legitimate reasons and have a beautiful love story. Nobody made that rule. That is a perceived wall that other people will put up in front of you. But nobody made that rule, and nobody really made that wall, and you can blow through that wall pretty easily by just deciding to get on the plane and go. When are we wall builders? All right, so now what happens when we meet somebody in this process and we fall in love and we bring them here? Now is the time to build a wall around that relationship. What does that look like? Well, obviously, you're committed to each other. You're not seeing and dating other people. You are going to protect her from whatever's here, from whatever pitfalls can come. She's going to need help and support. You're going to provide that for her. Other people may judge her. You're going to protect her from that. Most people are going to be pretty cool. I think we Americans are pretty awesome when other people from other countries come here. Obviously, our country is full of people from all over the world, and I think that we're really, really receptive for the most part. But you will meet people who will occasionally have opinions of the two of you in your relationship or of her. And I know how you guys think you want to protect her from all of that. You want to provide the things that she needs. You want her to understand that you want to provide them and be willing to accept those things from you. That is how our brains are wired. We're going to build a wall around that relationship and keep it strong and just make sure that none of those outside influences penetrate and hurt the relationship once she's here, right? There are times to break through a wall. There are times to build a wall and protect what you had and what you worked so hard to achieve, right? Makes sense? Anyway, guys, I hope you don't mind the analogy. I thought it was kind of fun. There are times when we have to break a wall, times when we have to build it, and I hope that you guys understand when to do either. And if you have any questions around this process, this exciting process and what it holds for you, I hope that you'll give us a call and talk about it. It's been great. See you again.
Want to learn more? Check out our website at CostaRicaWomen.com. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Then click on the notice bell to get notified every time we add something new. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+.